we're going to buzz through this bucket system portion of the preview video. If you want to follow along with me on the cheat sheet, again, there's a link in the description. Just go to that cheat sheet, go to the bucket system, go ahead and throw a filter that I have up there, the bucket system filter, and follow along with me as I go through this. But like I said, let's fire through this. Again, I'm going to put a filter and we're going to talk about the last year buckets. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the bucket system, I do have a video in the description that explains all about it. Go check it out. It's not a very long video and it's pretty detailed. We're going to start here with the last year one bucket. Now, again, I want you to pay attention to the projections, the min, the max. We always want to round down with the min and always want to round up with the max. So when it comes to last year ones, the projection is 1 to 4. That's how many golfers that I am projecting to be inside the top 10 from this bucket. There are 16 golfers in that bucket, and it looks like 30% of the strength of field points go towards that bucket. Now, again, if you want to follow along with me, you can check out who these golfers are just by going ahead and putting a filter on this and going to the last year stat column, clearing out all of the numbers there and only selecting one. These are your last year ones. These are golfers who top 20'd last year. Now, the projection says they're going to be somewhere between 1 to 4 inside the top 10. Just to give you a little bit of confidence in selecting a golfer from this bucket, I mean, it's almost a 90% frequency rate, meaning dating back to 2013 or 2014, really. My data goes back to 2013. There weren't last year stats in 2013 because then I'd have to keep track of 2012 stats. You see the paradox that happens there. So in 2014, we had last year stats from 2013, and that's when we went from 2014 and on. From that moment forth, only 1 year were there not a golfer, or was there not a golfer from this bucket inside the top 10. Only 1 year. And also, when there were salaries for DraftKings, only in one of those years did we not have an optimal lineup golf, or a golfer in the optimal lineup from that bucket. So keep all of that in mind. I think, obviously, when you look at the golfers in this bucket, it's pretty easy to be comfortable playing golfers from here. I mean, like, if you wanted to start with a 10K golfer, it's either Jon Rahm or Viktor Hovland. If not, you've got a good plethora of golfers in the 9, 8, and 7K range to fill out your lineups. So I think that's fine. I think if you wanted to start here with anchoring your lineups, I think that's perfectly fine. And if you want to do one of these 10K golfers, again, I think it's perfectly fine. I guess if we wanted to, we can go back to previous years and see what those top price guys did. Well, when it came to the golfers that finished inside the top 20 the year before in the 10K range, only Cam Smith finished well, and that was 13th. That was in 2022. In 2021, you had all these golfers here who top 20 the year before who did not finish inside the top 10. Only DJ finished 10th. And that's not an optimal lineup, guys. So I don't know how to feel about this. I guess in 2020, we had JT who finished first, that finished 12th the year before. So that works. Simpson, or Webb Simpson, that's a pretty good finish. I guess he's not in the 10K range. Rahm and McIlroy, though, not super good. 2019. Oh, this was a WG. This was the first year there was a WGC event. So the year before this, it was an actual event, like 156 golfers or something like that. Not everyone played it. So you had DJ the year before, finished 20th. I should say he finished 20th that year, but had a win the year before. He's the only guy that had a top 20 the year before. 2018. Yeah, it's not looking good for our 10K golfers that had a top 20 finish. Bill, 9th place finish. Is he the best one? Oh, JT. JT was the best one in 2020. He won the tournament and had a 12th place finish the year before, and he was 10,700. But other than that, none of our 10K golfers who had a top 20 finish the year before finished good. Like, had a good result at all. So maybe that's our first telltale sign to kind of avoid Jon Rahm and or Victor Hovland, which is really, really interesting. I don't know. I mean, hey, 1 to 4 is the projection, and it's not looking good for the 10K golfers, just from past performance trends. Last year, 2 bucket, we want somewhere between 0 to 2. Last year, 3 bucket, we also want somewhere between 0 to 2. Same applies for our last year 4 bucket. Last year 5 bucket, I would say is 0 to 3. And here's why I'd say it's 0 to 3. Because when you look at our min, it says 1, so we go down to 1. Our max is actually over 2.04, but I always kind of refer to this column over here that says max projection in the miscellaneous info box. This is 1.90, and this is my conservative max projection. So if this is less than 2, that automatically means the minimum is 0. And the max, we still round up to 3. So this will be a 0 to 3 bucket when I build my optimizer. And then also 0 to 2 for golfers who did not play in last year's FedEx St. Jude. So I would implore you all to use the cheat sheet, check it out, go through all the last year buckets, try to figure out with the projections which golfers you like, which golfers you want to anchor around, and go from there. Again, I'm going to go through this quick, so I'm not going to go through every single bucket. The next one I want to talk about is the last week stats and the buckets that follow with those. So these are golfers, this would be the golfers who played at the Wyndham Championship, and do their results matter at this event? Well, having a top 20 finish the week before, it's actually not terrible. And the projection is 1 to 3, but again, our max projection over in this column says it's less than 2, so really this projection is 0 to 3. Just to throw these golfers on the screen, again, you want to make sure there are no other filters in here. Clear out the numbers in the last week column and then just select one. This is how we get to our last week 1 golfers. And these are all golfers who top 20'd at the Wyndham Championship. Starts with Sam Burns, then Sung Jae, Russell Henley, so on and so forth. The projection is 0 to 3. Now, if you really wanted to get technical, it is 1 to 3, but I am going to use this as my projection. I think 0 is the right number because we only have a 70% frequency rate. By the way, this goes back to 2013. So 10 years worth of data. 7 of those years, we did have at least 1 golfer from this bucket inside the top 10, but that's not a 100% frequency rate. It's still a good number. We also have a 50% frequency rate when it comes to optimal lineups. So optimal lineups go back to 2017. That's 6 years of data. And in 3 of those, we had at least 1 optimal lineup golfer in it. And the other 3, we didn't. We had 0. So there isn't a ton of confidence from this bucket. But I imagine if you're shot like Harden, you are going to be playing Sam Burns no matter what. So I actually don't mind some of these golfers. Now, 0 to 3, I'm probably going to stay on the low end of that projection. I don't think I want to play 3. I'm leaving up to you guys. If you do like 3 of these golfers, by all means, play them. But obviously, don't play 4 or more. I'm going to stick to 2 or less for me. Going through the other projections for golfers who played in the Wyndham, nothing's greater than 2 for your max projection, and everything is 0. So it's 0 to 2 for anyone else that finished at the Wyndham or who played in the Wyndham Championship that is in the FedEx St. Jude Championship. To no surprise, golfers who did not play last week have the highest projection because it has your best golfers in it. In fact, it has nearly 75% of the strength of field points that go towards it. Very high frequency rate. Not such a high success rate, but this includes every golfer that has ever been in this bucket dating back to 2013. So it might not be fair to use, if I had a way to go back to just 2019 when it became a WGC event, I'd probably use that. Moving forward, we probably would have different numbers and the projection might be a little bit different, but unfortunately, I do not have that access or the accessibility to do that. So anyways, this bucket is the biggest projection, and technically how this would read would be 3 to 6. So you want at least, well, I should say you want at least 3. I think no matter what, there will be 3 golfers from this bucket that will finish inside the top 10. I think it's pretty simple to say that because you have your best golfers up here. You have all 10K golfer. All of the 10K golfers are in this bucket. So it's your last week 6s, golfers who did not play last week. Scheffler, Rory, Rahm, Hovland, and Schauffele are up there, but then you have basically all your 9K golfers and most of your 8K golfers. So keep that in mind. I think it's going to just be easy to start here. And if you want to play all 6 of your golfers in your lineup from this bucket, by all means do so. I think it's fine because no other bucket is saying you want to play at least 1 from the last week stats. So keep that in mind. Again, I think 3 will be inside the top 10. Pretty darn easy. I wouldn't be surprised if we see 5 or more. And really, I guess we could probably see up to 7. So if you were shaky with confidence in playing any of these golfers, don't be. This is where you want to probably start building your lineups from, or maybe find a smaller anchor bucket to start with. But don't be afraid to play golfers in this one. Moving on to our course history buckets. So we can use course history this week because TPC Southwind has been a staple. And I'm only using St. Jude events. This once was a regular field event, then it was a WGC event, and now it's a playoff event. I'm still going to use course history the same that I would at any event. Obviously, the fields have changed year to year, but course history is still course history. If you've played the event enough times or you play the golf course enough times, you're gonna figure out where to miss it, where you want to hit it, how to make the putts here, all that good stuff. That comes with course history. So the top bucket, or not the top bucket, but course history 1 would be having your best course history. We have 6 golfers that have an average finishing place of 20th or better here. It's a very high success rate of finishing inside the top 10, nearly 25%. So you think about that, 6 golfers are in this bucket. At 25%, that means 1 or 2 golfers are, I wouldn't say destined to be inside the top 10, but it seems that way with performance trends. Now the projection is 0 to 2. And that has a large effect of strength, or a large reason to that is the strength of field points that go towards that bucket, very low compared to the other buckets. But it's a 100% frequency rate. So let's just take a look who these golfers are. Again, clear out any of the other filters that you have and go to course history 1. And this is what makes it interesting, because if there's a 100% frequency rate so far, does it break this week? With Colin Morikawa, Tom Kim, Sepp Straka, Sahith Theegala, Denny McCarthy, and Lee Hodges. Now, just to throw some perspective out there, Tom Kim has 1 event of history. It's a 13th place finish last year. Sepp Straka has 1 event of history. That's a 2nd place finish last year. Sahith Theegala has 1 event of history. That's a 13th place finish. So too was Lee Hodges. Now, it wouldn't be surprising if 2 of those golfers did finish inside the top 10 or even inside the top 20. However, this is a very, man. I'm conflicted because I do like Sepp Straka this week, but of all the golfers that are in this bucket, Lee Hodges and Sepp Straka are and Sahith Theegala are the lowest confidence players that I have, despite not even seeing much from Colin Morikawa over the last 7 weeks. Like, I don't think there's really anything impressive that he's done. Yeah, no, Colin Morikawa is a very bad average finishing position. So too Sahith Theegala. So yeah, I don't know. Not a huge vote of confidence when it comes to this bucket. But hey, 100% frequency rate, it's worth mentioning. Very high success rate. So maybe that might play a little factor into success this week. most of your projections are going to be in the course history 2 bucket. That's 2 to 5 for your projections. 23 golfers there in that bucket. Course history 3, 1 to 3, and we have 20 golfers there. It's where the majority of your strength of field points come from. So if you're following along on the cheat sheet, just, take a look there. Course history 2s. There's 20 some golfers here. You want to play somewhere between 2 to 5. So we have our 10K golfers, our 9K golfers, some 8s, some 7s, and a couple 6s. I don't think this would be a bad place to start building your lineups from. And just remember, the projection is 2 to 5. And that's just to finish inside the top 10. That doesn't mean you want to select up to 5 golfers. Because let's be real. If the 4 golfers in the 10K range and above finish inside the top 10 and they fulfill that projection, you can only play 2 of them. You can't play 3 of them. So 2, I think, is a good number to start with, and then you go from there. And remember, just because 2 of those 10K golfers finish inside the top 10 might not mean you want to play them, because an $11,500 Rory McIlroy in 9th place probably is not going to win you a GPP. It might help you cash, but it won't win you a GPP. The next bucket would be your course history 3s. This one's a little less, or the projection is a little lower, 1 to 3, with pretty good reason. Some interesting names, by the way, especially the one that's at the top, Scotty Scheffler, and then Ricky Fowler. Then it drops into the 8K range and drops fast into the 6Ks. Maybe it's where we start with our 6Ks. Maybe we start with Scotty. I don't know. It's really up to you guys. And then the other buckets are 0 to 2, but there aren't a lot of golfers in those buckets. So those top 3 buckets are the ones you want to be looking at. Now, when we get on to the recent form buckets, it's very similar to the course history buckets. 0 to 2 for recent form 1, 2 to 4 recent form 2s, 2 to 4 recent form 3s, and then 0 to 2 for the rest. I had to just double check as I was reading that off that there weren't any differences with the conservative projection versus the one that I just said for each of those. So recent form 1s, we can go through this really quick. 0 to 2, yeah, really good golfers up here. I think having one of them in your lineup is fine. 2 of them is okay. Probably don't play 3 or more, especially because of the price tag. Price tags that go with each of them. Recent form 2s start with Victor and Xander, which are kind of interesting. Again, it's 2 to 4 for the projection of finishing inside the top 10. I think you can start with 2 golfers somewhere in here. And remember, Victor was not in one of those friendly buckets that we looked at. I can't remember which one it was. Last year ones, I want to say. Yeah, last year ones being in the 10K range. That's what we saw. Wasn't a very good omen. So Victor would have been one of those guys. I actually don't mind going to Xander. I'm not sure about Tommy though. But then we drop into the 8s and then quickly into the 7s. So my boy Shot Like Harden probably sees Sam Burns and is like, yeah, this is the time I play him. I wouldn't mind that. I also don't mind Tom Kim. There's a lot of good golfers in this bucket. And remember, it's 2 to 4 is the projection. I don't want to go to this one. Let's go to recent form 3s. This bucket starts with John Rahm. Then it's Patrick Cantlay, Jordan Spieth, Collin Morikawa. Now, Rahm also in that last year 1 bucket in the 10K range. I actually don't mind. Like, if I have more trust in a golfer that's kind of in a bad performance or like a bad combo bucket or combo of buckets, I'm pretty okay with John Rahm, honestly. So, yeah, I think that's fine. But this one is also a bucket that kind of drops from the 9, 8s and then goes right into the 7s and 6s. This projection also is 2 to 4. So again, if you want to start here with building lineups, I don't see an issue with that. And then just remember, each of the other recent form buckets are 0 to 2s. So moving on to salaries. This kind of gives us an idea of how many golfers from each salary do we expect to be inside the top 10. 1 to 3 salary 1s, which are your 10K golfers. 0 to 2 9K golfers. Technically 0 to 3 8K golfers. So remember when we went through the past optimal and GPP wheel lineups for the St. Jude? We saw one instance where there were 3 AK golfers inside the top 10. 3 AK golfers actually in the, I think in the optimal or in the realistic optimal. So it is definitely doable to do it with 3 AK golfers. This week, I'm not sure that I really advocate for it, but you certainly could. And then we have 1 to 3 7K golfers, which is really close to 0 to 3. And then we never really ever play more than 0 to 2 6K golfers. It doesn't matter if it's in the top 6K or the bottom 6K range. So starting out with a 10K golfer, an 8K golfer, and a 7K golfer seems smart, just based off the projections, but I'll leave that up to you. The last bucket to talk about are the strokes gain buckets. Now, if you're unfamiliar with how I do strokes gains or strokes gain buckets, check the bucket system video in the description. I explain it all there, and pretty quick too. But we don't have a strokes gain 5 or a 6 bucket. Like, there are no golfers that represent those buckets in this event. Everyone is between the strokes gain buckets of 1 to 4. And it looks like 2 to 5 are projected to be inside the top 10 out of the strokes gain 1 bucket, then 0 to 2, 1 to 3, 0 to 2. That's very interesting. Because I don't think we can actually roster everyone that's in the strokes gain buckets. Now, if you're following along with me on the cheat sheet, again, link in the description, sort by strokes gain, top to bottom, A to Z. Everything is color coordinated based off the strokes gain buckets. Very interesting. Okay, whoa. There we go. I was like, where are all our 10K golfers? So when it comes to strokes gain 1, remember this bucket was a projection of 2 to 5. There are 3 10K golfers. Rory, Rahm, Xander. Now, if we want to go with the trends, 10K golfers that had a top 20 finish the year before, Jon Rahm's not in a good combo. Now, he could pull a JT from 2020 and, you know, where JT won the 2020 St. Jude and had a 12th place finish the year before. But for everyone else that was in the 10K range that had a top 20 finish the year before, they were not in the optimal lineup. They also were not in the realistic optimal. They weren't in the GPP winning lineup. Some of them failed to even finish inside the top 20. Or there were years where there were none inside the top 20. So maybe it's the reason not to play Jon Rahm and maybe get on someone like Rory or Xander. But you have a good choice of 9K golfers, a really good choice of 8K golfers, and not too shabby 7 and 6K golfers. Oh, I'm sorry, 1 7K golfer, and that's Keegan, which actually I don't think I care to play. I might just ignore him completely. Those 6K golfers are interesting, though. And then just remember, every projection underneath that, except for your strokes gain 3, is 0 to 2. Which I say every, and that's like just 2 buckets. Strokes gain 2 and strokes gain 4 are 0 to 2. Strokes gain 3 is 1 to 3. And that, I mean, there's a small number here for strokes gain 2. 0 to 2 is your projection, and for good reason. Strokes gain 3, on the other hand, is a little bit larger, and this is a 1 to 3. Actually, it's a 0 to 3 projection, right? No. It is a 1 to 3 projection. So maybe finding one guy here to anchor around your lineups. I mean, it goes from $12,100 Sky Scheffler down to $9,000 Colin Morikawa, and then $8,400 Hideki Matsuyama. Perhaps you like Cam Young, which I know a lot of people do. I mean, this is a great time to get to like Tom Kim. Tom Kim at $7,800 with his course history. It just seems like that's a slam dunk play. And he had been playing pretty good leading into, he tweaked his ankle or something at the Open. Still finished well, still played through it, but took some time off. And he was the defending champion for the Wyndham Championship, and he did not show up at the Wyndham. So maybe it's bothering him more than we know. But either way, it seems like a good spot for him. And a lot of good 7Ks and a lot of good 6Ks. And then your strokes gain 4 are, I'm not going to say bad golfers, just bad off the tee, but really good putters. That's what these guys are. And you want somewhere between 0 to 2. So you could handpick your golfers using the bucket system within the cheat sheet. You certainly could do that, or you can wait for the optimizer. I'll throw that on the screen. I already did it in the beginning of the preview video, but you could also just use the optimizer, or join me tomorrow, Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, where I actually build lineups live. If you want to give me 2 to 4 golfers you want to build lineups around, it utilizes the bucket projections right in this little section here. All the bucket projections I just went with, those will all be here. I'll also have the marquee tee times, and then we can just let the optimizer do its magic, see which golfers it chooses. It will use all the projections. Like if we want somewhere between 1 to 3, it'll make sure it selects at least 1 and no more than 3. So that will be tomorrow in the strategy video. We will use that optimizer to go to build us lineups that follow all the bucket projections. But again, you want this information for your own. Check out the link in the description that says cheat sheet. You check out that cheat sheet. I have the bucket system information up here that I just went over. You can also do all of the filtering here in the dream sheet. Find the golfers you want to play, and yeah, as easy as that.